Welcome in New York. Good morning. I think this is maybe the first episode we've ever recorded in the morning. It being daytime in general is obviously a rarity as well, but it's a little bit easier, I think, to go to work this week with the week that we just had as City fans.
Maybe one of the best run of games maybe ever. It's up there.
It's up there.
I don't want to be crazy, but this exact run could be very similar, minus one or two teams, from what an actual playoff run could look like with, how everything looks.
I mean, it's true. These were three very tough teams, three teams that people obviously consider rivals, some more so than others, in Toronto, Philly, and the Red Bulls. Two of them being away games. It kind of emphasizes how important getting those points even more so are. And I think the second win against Philly in a row away was the first time since 2022 that we won two road games back to back. So things are looking fully up for the club, for pretty much everybody involved. And there's a lot of players that have become standouts. Cushing has also kind of masterfully rotated and made substitutions in every game, almost at a 100% hit rate, which is something that just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I have nothing bad to say in that regard at all.
Yeah, and I guess first maybe we jump into the Philly game, and then we'll tackle the Red Bull game, which is a bit more fresh because it was sooner. But with Philly, we knew that was going to be likely the game where Cushing rotated early against Toronto, so we could get away with a few more important players being available for Philly, and then maybe Philly being down those rotations. And much like the Red Bull game, Alonso in the first 2-3 minutes, he goes and scores that beautiful goal off the ball from Santi. That is just Santi doing his best Hannes impression,
right?
Which is a weird flip to say, but just the start to that, it felt like we were the team of old, like we were who we used to be.
This whole week has felt like that. This whole week has felt like there's no game that I fear with this team. The ball from Santi, it's like one of those situations where the assist is better than the goal. Just a perfectly weighted ball right to the foot of Alonso, who, does his best to put it away, but that ball is insane. And it continues to build the case for Santi, not only being the MVP of our team, but, in the top 5 of the league right now, the way that he's playing. And I think that he was able to do that in the Philly game because he didn't have to in the Toronto game. And we talked a lot about how, he kind of took a step back and let other players cook. It helped a lot because he was locked in not only this game, but the Red Bulls game as well.
Yeah, I think, he's been a standout, and another player that I want to highlight who I think early season wasn't necessarily getting a lot of the love that he deserved, at least from Cushing, probably the fan base as well, maybe even us, is Tavon, who obviously he wasn't featured as much in the Philly game, I think, until the end when we went into the defend for our life formation. But against Toronto and then against the Red Bulls, he is like fully back to that 2021 MLS Cup playoff.
So much
Tavon.
Better than that. Like, actually so much better.
Yeah, well, now he's added attacking to his ability.
Yeah, it's. I was making the joke to you that, he was training with Tales and Thiago Martins, and now he thinks he's Brazilian.
Yeah.
Like, he's actually he's like doing step overs and all this stuff. You see him pre-game, you literally would think, hey, does that dude also play for Brazil?
Yeah, it's crazy. I think Jamaica's lucky to have, I think, a player like him available. That'll be interesting to see, and especially some of the matchups against the men's national team that we'll see in the future. But he deserves some kind of commendation because it's been insane for him. And I think he's long been like that vibes guy, like the guy that you obviously want around the locker room and the guy that you want on the field, just to kind of maintain the fun that all the players are having. But when you pair that with the class, I guess, that he's bringing, that's a weapon. That's a weapon at right back.
And it makes it such a hard decision for Cushing to actually pick a guy.
Right.
Because Olenek has been solid.
Good enough. Yeah.
He's been solid, and his attacking, I think, has been taken kind of to another level. It's just the defensive side needs a little bit of work, but it makes it such a tough decision because how do you choose?
Yeah, and I mean, there's an argument too to keep Olenek in there with how good our defense is playing now. I think in the Philly game specifically, we were having crazy flashbacks of Chanot and Collins backfield.
And not in the way that not like the aura is completely different. Like they're
Right.
It's not the same, but the ability to handle all of that pressure and deal with it and just be methodical robots that are just getting everything cleared, taking care of the problems. That's where you're like, okay, we've seen this before.
Yeah, it was. We saw the same thing from Perea too. Obviously, he comes in for Sands, who isn't even in the 18. I think that was obviously Cushing's move, knowing that if he puts Sands in that Philly game, we do not have a Sands for the Derby because he was a yellow card away from suspension. But Perea, obviously against his own club, same thing with Matty Freese, but he is just a little demon in that midfield.
Yeah.
Like,
Engine.
He's up and down the field. Like he'll, I can't remember, it wasn't the Philly game, was it, that he scored his goal? But
no,
prior,
Toronto.
Toronto, he obviously gets that goal all the way at that end of the field, and then he's a part of that unit in the back that's also putting out fires the way that James Sands does. It's almost, you can almost say he's like one of the best players on our team, or the best player. Like it would have to be between, if it was my listing, like Hannes, Santi, and Perea.
Hannes over Santi.
No, I'm saying them three as a unit.
I was
are
going to say, like, we could go on that. Jeez.
One ABC is like them three together, and they're like all kind of tied up there, depending on who feels like having a monster day on any given game.
Fair. Yeah.
So he has been incredible to watch, and then obviously Matty back in goal.
That dude is
possessed. He's European bound, I think.
He is possessed.
I would like to say we've been the people kind of grandstanding this since it started. Maybe he'll become the keeper for the men's national team at some point, but he is doing everything that is asked of a keeper to get that big contract, get that big move, get national team looks. It's going to be exciting to watch his career and kind of where he goes. I think for a long time, our USMNT like babies have been like Gio and Scally. Sean got his call-ups. We were always excited for that. Same thing with Sands, and I think a lot of us have felt jaded for a long time that Keaton hasn't gotten the nod, but it feels like Freese may end up being the guy that ends up getting the most NYCFC caps.
Or Perea.
It could be.
Depending on what nationality he wants to choose to play for.
Could you imagine if Perea gets called up before like a Keaton does? That would suck.
It would suck for Keaton, but it'd be good for the national team.
It'd be good for Perea too.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Philly game, and then we have the raccoon, which is now...
Raccoonio.
It's become a whole thing. There was a raccoon at Citi Field for the Derby.
On purpose?
No, like, nothing on purpose. It was just like in the stairwell. And then I guess the team has gotten a little stuffed raccoon that they're bringing with them on all away games now.
Okay.
And they want the fans to name it. So I think we need to throw a name in the ring and see if it sticks.
Okay.
I think Racquinho is a bit too easy. One that I saw online that I really liked was Rocky, because after both games you have Cushing throwing up the Rocky pose. So that's
also the Modelo after the Red Bulls win.
Yeah.
Huge dub.
That is a huge dub.
Naming the raccoon.
That's what I
That's a tough one. Next episode we bring our...
You think of it?
Yeah.
So moving on to the Red Bulls game. I think probably a more impressive win than the Philly win was. Probably more impressive than Toronto, but there were so many similarities between all the games. Just looking at Philly and Red Bulls getting the goal within the first 5 minutes in both.
Huge.
Yeah, it's
can't understate how huge that was.
Yeah, maybe can't overstate. Can't state enough.
Can't state enough. Whatever.
Can't state enough how big of a goal that is. And then for us to kind of do the same thing that we just talked about with Philly, like the amount of pressure that we had to absorb sort of as a unit against a team like Red Bull, well, that's really their identity. And Philly has a similar identity. Like they play I saw some people saying that they play like beautiful football. Couldn't be more wrong.
I didn't really see that.
Even if you look at their goal right before halftime, like there was no beautiful build-up, especially compared to our goal that Hannes ends up scoring, where everybody on the field touched the ball except Jovan and Sands, and we'll have a discussion about Jovan, I think, in a little bit. Yeah. But that is beautiful football. That reminds me of the goal that we had, I believe it was with Maxi and Tati, like back in 2021, where we had like all 11 players on the field touch it, and there were like 18 passes before the goal goes in, and it just felt a lot like that. And Hannes too, to have that still image, I don't know if you saw it, of Coronel and then he has like two or three defenders on the ground. Obviously, the one that blew past him, and he sits that guy down and just tucks it right corner, right at the start. Yeah, that is a level of composure from Hannes that is amazing to watch. He is truly like a special player, I think.
Yeah, and what he's going to be able to do with this team is he literally has the ability, and I know there's been a lot of players that we've said this about and they haven't truly turned out to that degree, but he truly has the ability to be the face of New York for as long as he wants, if he can play like this. Like David Villa, Pirlo, Lampard level fame.
Yeah, I mean every time he touches the ball, it's so exciting. Like he's making somebody look stupid. He's making a move. He's getting a ball to somebody, and it's whether or not the person that gets it ends up doing something with it. But
they should have never let him get this confident.
I don't know. Yeah, simply, I don't know where it came from. But like if he's looking like this, I'm just getting so many vibes of past successful seasons that we've had. And a shout out to Designated Players Pod. I think we went on earlier in the season. I don't know if it was the off season, but we obviously made a bet with them. I think one of their hosts is a Red Bulls fan, and he had a whole wall of Red Bull scarves that we had to kind of stare at the whole time that we recorded. And we made a bet that if we make the playoffs, he has to put an NYCFC one up there.
Not only have we...
He's screwed.
Not only are we in the green, but we are in third in the East right now. Like, if you had asked me a month ago if that was going to be the case, I'd be like, absolutely not. I think we were second to last in the East. It just shows how quickly in this league specifically things can change, and how a bump of a few games really, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't matter that much. I know it's easy to say now that we've gone.
Now that we're in third,
5 unbeaten, we lose 1 and then 3 in a row for wins. It's easy to say after that. But I mean, genuinely, in the past, we've had bumps like this and recovered from it.
Yeah, I think the most impressive thing is that it just feels like it's clicking for like every player on the field. Like genuinely, every single player has been a part of the results that we've been getting, and. Bringing it back to the Hannes goal, we have Malachi get his assist. I
think is that the second assist?
I believe. But we were concerned.
2 games?
He had the goal.
Oh, no, so just a goal.
I think a goal and an assist, yeah. But we were concerned going into the game in the derby. Obviously, the brightest lights that could possibly exist after seeing him, maybe have some faltering confidence in previous home games. He is kind of flipped a page on that. Like he is, as far as I can tell, he should be the guy at left wing until Tales is like 100%, and then let's see who's better,
right?
Who can do it.
I mean, you kind of got to give Cushing the credit on that call as well, because he almost went with the approach for starting Malachi as like he doesn't know what he doesn't know. So throw him in there. He's not going to have these preconceived notions of the derby and how bright those lights are and how big that game is. But also, I mean, it was kind of a rough call, because we saw in Toronto that Malachi is young. He can be upset, and he isn't maybe as mentally strong as we've given Santi credit for becoming. And so it was a gamble to put Malachi in the game, knowing that he definitely can't get tilted by another player.
Right. And it was a gamble that paid off. Now Cushing made another gamble with the lineup in starting Jovan up top at 9 for the derby. In the same way, he doesn't have those preconceived notions. He doesn't, maybe necessarily have as many nerves, knowing the history of the matchup and everything. But that I would say is a gamble that did not pay off. That was probably one of the only decisions that we've seen over the past 3 games, 7 days from Cushing that I wouldn't have done.
If you look at it in another light, it did work out, because starting Jovan, letting Munsef come off the bench was the deciding factor to us winning the game.
That's true.
So did it work out in terms of Jovan and his productivity? No. Did we see a couple of passes from him that, maybe better than something that Munsef could have done? Maybe. But outside of that, there really was nothing that you can point at and be like, that's a trait that I want my striker to have.
I think the biggest difference for me between Jovan and Munsef, and you mentioned it while we were watching the game, is just the seeming level of effort between the two players, especially in the press in our system that demands a player that has what seems like an unlimited gas tank and is going to run at defenders and run at the goalie. That is what Tati's bread and butter was on this team. That's why he won the Golden Boot. And Munsef has that. He has that. And Jovan, for whatever reason, I don't know if that's just not his play style, if he hasn't fully adapted to what we're looking for him to do at this point. But I think losing that, it's not worth having him in the lineup if you have an Alonso or a Baki that is going to do that while they're on the field the entire time.
Exactly. And my biggest issue with Jovan and his play style is I feel he takes too long to make his runs. He's making his run at the point of the contact of the pass, rather than you look at a Suarez, Munsef has done it. Any great striker, they're starting to make their run and letting you know before you even make the pass. And they're making it so that the run is perfectly timed to where they're lined up with the defender and easily blowing past them to get on the ball.
Right.
Jovan waits so long until almost the pass is already made, and it's so easy for the defenders to read. There's no mystery in this game at all.
Right. So if we look at the striker depth chart, and maybe we agree, it probably, at this point, unless Baki's goal has changed your mind, it probably, for me, would go Alonso, Baki, Jovan.
Correct, yeah, without a doubt.
So moving forward, we always start Alonso, and then we bring in Baki to see if he can be that guy at the end. Is that the way to go?
I don't know, because do you now ride the potential confidence that he has after getting the game winner, stinging the post, which should have been a volley rocketed right past the keeper? Do you ride that confidence and give him the first 45 as opposed to the last 45 in the next game? I don't know.
I don't envy.
It's a tough call.
Cushing's job.
I genuinely think that you ride the confidence
with Baki.
Yeah, and then you put Alonso in the later part of the game, which could potentially be more important.
Okay, I mean, I think either way, each of them have now proven that they can come in late and be an impact player.
Exactly.
And Alonso has proven he can be an impact player at any time. But I think you're right with Baki. If that confidence was, if all he needed was one to fall, and then he was going to turn into the guy that we need him to be, then I'm probably okay with him starting too. He brings a lot of intangibles too that we were talking about with the press and stuff that Alonso doesn't have, which is something that has to be mentioned. Really, it's just the ability for Alonso to be clinical that has him kind of sitting atop that depth chart. Like he'll have one shot and he'll have a goal every time he plays. So it's
right place, right time type of guy.
Yeah, it's like the best of two goods instead of the lesser of two evils. It's like, they both have their own good characteristics, but you kind of have to choose which one you feel like playing at that time. Otherwise, though, the results overall, I think, are very promising for the future. I know we have New England away coming up. They have been kind of tail spinning. We obviously beat them at home. It's going to be interesting to see what this team can do. I don't know at what point we start thinking about like summer transfer windows. It's
I mean, it's getting close.
We're able to sit in the studio right now, short sleeves. Like we are getting to the point where those discussions can kind of begin. And there's been no rumors, not that we really need anybody, or not that we're looking for any. But like you can imagine if we bring in a few pieces like this.
There's some guys out there.
It feels like the sky is the limit for us at the moment.
I don't know, because I'm not really that tapped into the Premier League anymore. As much as I used to be. I think I used to be kind of a demon in terms of knowing every team's players, what they were doing. So I was a bit surprised to be scrolling through Instagram and seeing like Thiago Silva leaving Chelsea, Martial leaving Manchester United, like all of these big name players that maybe haven't been performing for a couple of years. If they were given the chance in MLS to kind of not just finish out their career, but kind of rebrand what they've done in the last couple of years, a Tony Martial to our team, like, to me, is like a bar none. Like that's a given.
It's like, what did you say? It's like giving crack to a fiend.
It's like giving crack to a fiend. I would not only be the first person to buy that jersey, but I think genuinely he would be a really good piece to the team.
Yeah.
Thiago Silva, if that's even possible. I don't know if these. So
and what about
I say this without knowing if those dudes have anything lined up already.
Right.
I have no clue. Like Thiago Silva could be already signed to PSG going back. I have no idea.
Right.
But if these types of players are out there, like Luis Muriel, like how did he get past at least an offer from NYCFC? I don't understand that.
Or like a Marco Reus just left Dortmund.
Reus was the biggest one.
Like that's insane. We have Griezmann too, and now LAFC is becoming the French version of the Italian Toronto FC, it seems. So maybe the hopes are dead unless we have the Knicks send Griezmann the strongest business pitch that's ever existed. Like, give him a suite for the rest of his life or something to get him in the city. But there are a lot of players like that. I think Louis at some point, like he's going to be done in Europe as well. And
I can see him going to Chicago. I just see it.
So we have France and LAFC, Italy at Toronto, and Germany and Chicago. And we're Brazilian.
Poland.
Oh, Poland. You're right. Well, I was thinking of Schweinsteiger.
Oh, yeah.
Was their old legend. And they had, what's his name from Liverpool, too? Little short guy. Shaqiri. But I don't think he's...
Shaqiri.
What is he? Swiss?
Switzerland.
So Chicago's just like Eastern European.
Yeah.
Is where we're going. But I do kind of want to get back to that. I feel like I miss the days of like the Villa, the Pirlo, the Lampard, like that.
Or just having I mean, Wolf literally could be that guy, that big name. But he doesn't really have the pedigree of being super successful in Europe and coming to the MLS.
Right.
I think I'm over the idea of being upset about that happening.
Of not getting like a legend.
No, I'm saying like, because I think before there was like this stigma and like, oh, that's MLS 2.0, bringing in dudes that have been successful in Europe to your club. Like, I don't even care.
You know why? It's crazy what adding a Messi and a Luis Suarez to your league will do to the minds of fans.
To going and winning a Leagues Cup.
Right.
Being a favorite for MLS Cup. Like, I want that for our team no matter what.
You sign Messi and you win a trophy within 3 months.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that...
And I genuinely think like a Lewandowski, Tony Martial, those type of players bring a level of pedigree to your team that is not tangible. Like, you are going to be in conversations that you were not in before.
Right. Yeah, and I guess if we had to pick a nationality for NYCFC, I feel like so far we've been the Brazilians.
Neymar.
So, I was going to say, NYCFC
Neymar.
source said that bat signal back out and get that man to the city.
Neymar, Thiago Silva.
Imagine the two of them. Imagine our own little PSG reunion at NYCFC. That would be,
I would never say no to that.
I wouldn't either. So I guess that's probably 128, 129. I don't know what episode it is. It's great to be a City fan right now. It's been a roller coaster of a season so far. This
has been the highest highs that we've had in a long time.
But like 6 weeks ago, it was the lowest low.
Yeah.
So I think just trying to enjoy it while we're in it. Some games coming up. New England will probably be tougher away than they were at home.
New England's a potential for us to pop over.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's up in the air currently.
We'll have to see. There is something special about Gillette to me as a Patriots fan, but
and as an NYCFC fan too.
Away.
Like that was maybe the best game we've ever seen live.
Right.
The coldest. Like that receiver, the coldest.
Yeah, the coldest.
That was the coldest game we have ever been in. And shout out to, I don't even know, if I saw him, I'd probably remember him and I'd say you're the guy. But the guy who was like, oh no, why is Maxi taking the pen? And then immediately Maxi scores and he's like, let's go, Maxi.
Yeah.
That guy's like forever in NYCFC lore for us.
Yeah, he is. And that reminds me, talking about Maxi, we have an Open Cup game for the Utes tomorrow. I guess it would be today when the listeners are listening, against New Mexico United. So we said we'd do some homework on players that are eligible to play from the first team. So it turns out Tales is not good because he is a young DP. So there's, on top of the minute requirement or the minute, whatever you want to call it, the minute stipulation, if you have too much for the first team that you can't play, there's also a salary. So there's like rules on top of rules, and he is far above obviously the salary as a DP. So he cannot play. It looks like at the moment our only players that are eligible are Tana, Jason, and Hack. So I don't see a world where there's any NYCFC 2 player that is displacing Hack or Jason from that lineup.
Yeah, I mean, but then
you don't want to screw up the chemistry, right?
Yeah, you fall back on the chemistry thing.
Yeah.
You know, they're making that run. They've been there from day one. Let them cook. Have those guys on the bench if things go south, I think. Or if you want to, shore up like a 1-0 type of win towards the end, then you throw on a Hack, you throw on a Jason. I think having those guys available is super, super important. And they're obviously, no disrespect, but they're obviously much better than any other bench player that you can put on there.
Absolutely, yeah.
But you got to let those kids cook. Let them continue doing what they've done. Let them get that experience and pull that emergency lever if needed.
Yeah, I can't wait for some of these kids with the experience that they're getting in this tournament and just with NYCFC2 in general, make it to the first team. Hopefully some of them do. I don't think we've seen that happen yet, aside from those that are on NYCFC2 with first team contracts already.
Right.
But we have to, at some point, you do have to start allowing the kids to have some opportunities.
You have to show that it's possible.
Right. Because why stick around?
Thing.
Why stick around if
you have to show that it's possible, show the path, so that you have something to look forward to. Like if you go and you pull Calhera up, now everybody else on NYCFC2 is like, okay, I'm going to do that. This is clearly the threshold that I have to hit in order to be in that position. So I will do whatever it takes to get to that position.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't necessarily have to be game time either. Or I don't know if you need a full first team contract in order to train with the first team, but we talked to Pilkington after that Hartford game, and we were just asking about what that pipeline looks like to move from the second team to the first, and he called out that there's a number of players, citing Maximo and Christian as examples, that do train with the first team. Those are two guys that have first team contracts, but even allowing maybe a Calhera or a JJ to come up in training for like a week, I guess maybe that takes them away from NYCFC2 training. That would be the counter argument. But like if they look like they're a part of the group at least the level of training, then that's another thing that they can feel good about, and that you can feel good about, that they may have a shot at doing something in the MLS at some point. And they're balling out at their level in a way that it becomes negligent at a point to not allow them to have any opportunity.
Right.
So see what happens. We're obviously wishing for the best for the second team in the Open Cup. It would be, it already is a bit of a Cinderella story with how far they've gotten.
Right.
So we'll see what happens. Otherwise, you'll probably hear from us after New England. We'll recap that game. We'll recap the Open Cup dub, hopefully. Otherwise, you can find us at Post90Pod, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere you consume content. We're probably there too. And we'll look forward to hearing from you. Look forward to hearing from us after the game.
Yeah, next week.
Yeah, peace.